In the 13th century, Cölln was the sister town of Old Berlin, located on the southern Spree Island in the Margraviate of Brandenburg. Today the island is located in the historic core of the central Mitte locality of modern Berlin. Its northern peak is known as Museum Island, while the part south of Gertraudenstraße is called Fischerinsel. History. Cölln is first mentioned in a 1237 deed, denoting a priest Simeon of Cölln's St. Peter's Church as a witness. This date is commonly regarded as the origin of Berlin, though Alt Berlin on the eastern bank of the Spree River was not mentioned before 1244, and part of nowadays Greater Berlin like Spandau and Köpenick are even older. Cölln and Alt Berlin were separated only by the river Spree, linked by the Mühlendam causeway. Hence there was a close connection right from the start, since the trade route from Magdeburg to Frankfurt crosses the twin town and the inland water transportation routes also passed through it. Cölln-Berlin quickly came to prosperity. A second crossing, the Longe Brücke, today the Rathausbrücke, was erected across the Spree in 1307 with a common town hall in the middle of it. The common policy of Berlin and Cölln led 1307 to a first alliance with other towns and Salzwedel in the march to defend the rights against the sovereign. The Elector Frederick II Irontooth of Brandenburg ended the autonomy of Cölln, Berlin, and declared the twin town to his residents in 1451. In 1710, the twin cities Cölln and Old Berlin merged by the order of King Frederick I to form the capital of Prussia. As Old Berlin was twice as big as Cölln at the time, the merged city was named Berlin. The name of Cölln survives in the Berlin southeastern borough of Neukölln. Originally a southern extension of Cölln was called Neuköllner, and the Kölnische Park and the street am Kölnischen Park are both located in the adjacent area. The Benswinger enclosure situated within the park is home of 3 brown bears, representing the cradle of the city. Places of interest. Cölln's center, the St. Peter's Church, originally built about 1230 and reconstructed several times over the centuries, had been badly damaged by air raids and the Battle of Berlin in 1945. It was finally demolished in 1964. The church bore its name because many of Cölln's inhabitants depended on fishing. Today only the name of the Petriplatz Square marks the site. From here the Bruderstrasse runs north, named after the brothers of a former Dominican monastery established in 1297. Though most of the neighborhood was destroyed, a few Baroque houses remain. The bookseller Christoph Friedrich Nicolai lived on Bruderstrasse 13 from 1787 until his death in 1811. Today the house is still called Nicolai House. It was erected about 1670 and had belonged to the merchant Johann Ernst Gotskowski from 1747 to 1773. Nicolai had it remodeled by the mason and composer Carl Friedrich Zelter, making it a meeting point of intellectuals influenced by the Age of Enlightenment and Romanticism movement. In 1786 Honoré Mirabeau stayed here on his first trip to Berlin, and so did the architect Carl Friedrich Schinkel, the sculptor Johann Gottfried Schadow, the printmaker Daniel Chodowiecki, as well as the poet Theodor Korner in 1811. Korner's father Christian Gottfried Korner lived here as a Prussian privy councillor from 1815 to 1828. On Bruderstrasse 10 stands the Gegenhaus, built about 1688. According to legend, a maidservant was hanged right in front of the house in 1735. being falsely accused of stealing a silver spoon from 1742 on. The building belonged to the early statistician Johann Peter Sussmilch, at this time provost of the St. Peter's Church. The neighboring building, built in 1905, is home of the Berlin representation of the federal state of Saxony. Nearby the Sperlingsgasse branches off, where the novelist Wilhelm Raabe lived from 1854 to 1856 and published his popular work Die Chronik der Sperlingsgasse. The small alley, at this time the Spreegasse, was renamed in 1931 on occasion of the author's 100th anniversary. All former buildings on this street were demolished about 1960. The northern part of the Bruderstraße today is covered by the 1964 building of the former Staatsrat of the German Democratic Republic. The facade at the Schlossplatz Square includes the preserved Portal No. IV of the demolished Hohenzollern City Palace, where Karl Liebknecht on November 9, 1918 declared a Free Socialist Republic of Germany. After German reunification, the building served as the Chancellery from 1999 to 2001. Today it houses the European School of Management and Technology and the Hatti School of Governance. The area north of the Schlossplatz is the site of the historic City Palace and of the 1976 Palast der Republik. In accordance with a 2002 resolution by the Federal Bundestag Parliament, the City Palace is currently being rebuilt. Parallel to the Bruderstraße runs the Breitstraße, Cölln's main street. At the corner of the Schlossplatz of the buildings of the old and the new Marstall riding stables of the electors of Brandenburg, built in 1670 and 1901. Today the new Marstall is a seat of the Hans Eisler Conservatory. On neighboring Breitstraße 35 is the late Renaissance Rebecque House from 1624, one of Berlin's oldest preserved residential buildings, which since 1920 houses the Central and Regional Library. 3 historic bridges connect collaboration with the 17th-century extension of Friedrichswörde on the western bank of the Spree River. The Huhsunqu at the Schlossplatz, a steel construction erected in 1916. The Gertraudenstraße with the statue of St. Gertrude of Nivelles by the sculptor Rudolf Siemering from 1896 and the small Jungfernbrücke built in 1798. Berlin's oldest and the only bascule bridge of the city.